Welcome. So this is CAD training for 2024. This is for people that want to be on the CAD team. So if you want to be just on the build team or other areas, there's other CAD training for you. This training is going to be geared to people that want to actually design the robot. So the starting point, we're going to just design a basic swerve drive base, and that's going to be the starting point. Always have to thank our sponsors. And the goal is just to develop some basic skills and start developing some of the standards that we need to have. So these are the criteria that we're gonna have. Our swerve drive trained, our goal is to keep the same size from year to year. Now, there will obviously be times where we need to change the size, whether it's based on the the game rules or for some competitive advantage. But if we can, we want to keep a consistent size so that as we develop things, we've already got the sizing figured out. We use 1x2 pieces, so those are the lengths for them, and we'll go over them in a bit. MK4I swerve modules, that's the goal. And from the documentation, you can see that they're 3.75 inches from the ground, and we're using 1032s by 2.5 to secure the swerve modules to the frame. So we're just going to keep it pretty short and simple. First off, tldSB.onshape.com. That's where you're going to be doing the CAD. I'll go over that in a few moments. We will be covering some feature scripts, MKCAD, and you really are encouraged to do some self-learning. So this technogirls, sites.google.com/tldSB.on.ca/technogirls/home. Those are a series of tutorials that I developed a number of years ago that cover a lot of different skills, and if you work through them, you can get some skills developed. And the other one is the fundamentals learning pathway in Onshape. And I cannot emphasize enough, take the time to practice and learn, because once competition season kicks in, it's very difficult to get up to speed. So the more you're ahead of the game, the better. This is the learning pathway, and this particular one just covers kind of all the skills. So I think it's a really, really important one. It's very time consuming, but you'll develop really good skills, and there's a whole bunch of other learning pathways. So feel free to take some time in here. There's ones for robotics as well. So there you go. Okay, so here is Onshape. So tldSB.onshape.com. When you get there, log in with Google. It's your school account. If that doesn't work because you're a new student, email Mr. McTavish. He'll set you up. That's me. I'll set you up. And in the team section, you can see teams 4152. That's where our real robot is, but we're not going to work on for just our own learning. We'll just do our own document. The other thing is that there are some classes stuff, but I'm not going to do any of those today. But we'll just create a document. And with this document, put your initials in there and make it really clear what it's for, and that it's yours and everything. Okay, so here I am, and right off the bat, I'm just going to do a sketch, and I'm going to use the top plane. And I'm going to go over things with the assumption that you've done some of this sketching. So if you have not, again, go through the learning pathways to learn it. But in the sketch, the letter N opens up my main area. And I'm just going to cancel out of this because I realized, let's go in here. Down at the bottom, there's a plus. We're going to create a variable studio. And so this is where we can put in these values. So 26 robot width is 26. Robot width, that's 26 inches. Robot length, and that was 28 inches. Front rail, that was, I believe, 17.5. Side rail, and let's just double check, 19.5. 3.7. So I'll call it rail height, 3.75. Tube width is 1 inch. Tube height is 2 inches. Okay, so we have our variables in here. That will just make it a lot easier because then I can just change things really quickly. So let's go back to our part studio, and Tab Manager, Alt-T allows you to open these up. So there we go. So first off, let's just rename this part studio. So normally I would put in the part number and everything. Just going to hold off on that for right now. Okay, so back in here, top sketch, the letter N normalizes my view, and the letter R allows me to create a center point rectangle. I'm going to just use construction, which is the letter Q, and click, click. Okay, so there we go. So if I just type a number, 1 or 2 or whatever, and backspace, now I can start with the number sign, and that allows me to select all my different dimensions. So there's my 26. So I'll hit that, enter, and then again, I'm going to type the, whoops. See, this is why I need to type the number. I'm going to undo that. Let's just do that again. So R, Q, that's rectangle, construction, hold my center so you see it's orange. And there we go. So again, if I type a number, backspace, now I can enter my variables. So 26 and enter. And now I'm going to type a number again, 1, backspace, and now I can pick my other variable, which was 28. There we go. Green check mark. And there is my rectangle. All right. So that's my geometry. So I can refer to that later on. I'm going to create a plane. And so this plane is going to be offset from the top plane. And it's going to be the height, which was 3.75. So there we go. So now I have the height. So the idea is that when I'm designing this, I'm designing it centered in position. So there's the top height. Going to create a sketch and normalize my view. Oops. There we go. Okay, so I will do a center point rectangle. So what I'm doing here is going up and clicking and making sure. Okay, just 1 second here. Escape. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use these points. And the reason I'm using them is I'm just going to dimension to them. Okay, so back to my rectangle, up, and you'll notice that I'm finding that point, and I haven't clicked yet, but that orange line indicates that it's going to be there. So again, 1, backspace, and now I can pick. So this is going to be my front rail. So there's my dimension for that. And then this one right here, this is going to be my tube width. Okay, so there's my front rail and there. And you'll notice a few things. Number one, this gap, that's where the swerve module is. So I don't need anything there. I'm good. But that's in position, which is great. And to make my life quick and easy, I'm just going to mirror that. There we go. And then center point rectangle, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So find the center based on that, and then find that, and just go back down. Okay, so you got to pay attention to which one's getting highlighted. So because that one is, you'll notice if I move my mouse, I'm not clicking at all. I can select different ones, but I'll just stick with this one backspace. So again, that's going to be my tube width. And that one, that is going to be my side rail, 19.5. There we go. So now I have everything. I'm going to quickly just mirror that. And there we go. I now have my sketches. So sketch rails, green check mark. So now I am going to go to extrude individual. So these are custom features. I've added them for all of you. They're part of Julia's feature scripts, and they allow us to really quickly make our things. So I'm just changing my view so you can see they're floating up in the air here. So extrude individual, and I'm just going to select each of those, and you'll see the direction it's going. I'm just going to change the direction so it's going down. And extrude depth, that is going to be my tube height. There we go. There's my tubes. And in here, I've got tube converter as well. So I can now just select those bodies. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to take a few moments to load up. Now, we have a variety of options. I'm going to stick to VersaFrame here. Actually, you know what? I am going to stick to max tube. So we're going to use the max tube. Couple key concepts here. Number one, we're not actually going to use max tube. I want the 1/2 inch spacing though. And the VersaFrame is 1 inch spacing, so that's why I'm not using that. So that looks good. The reason I'm not doing the max tube is you see how thin that is. So our frame last year, we got hit, and that thin part, it just sheared right across. So never again. We're going to use 1/8 inch thick wall tubed for all of our max tube. But for now, I'll do this. And there's a couple reasons I like this. Number one, it gives you the exact dimensions in the name, which is fantastic. So we've now created our parts. We're in good shape now. So what we're going to do is we are going to go on over to our assembly. And in our assembly, we're just going to insert everything. Now, right off the bat, you want to be careful. Let me just cancel that. When I'm clicking this, see how if I move my mouse over here, they can be anywhere. I don't want that. I want to be very careful to select it and keep my mouse in here in green check marks so they're in position. And this indicates degrees of freedom. So what I want to do is I'm going to fix all of these. You can see I get a little warning here because I should only have one thing fixed. I should only have that first one fixed, and that's what we'll do in a moment, but we'll get there. So there we go. I've got my tube in here. Now, we're going to look for MKCAD. Over on the right, there's our MKCAD inserter. If you were fairly new, you might not see that. So there's a little plus sign. And if you go to the applications, go to the App Store. In the App Store, you can search for MKCAD. There's MKCAD. You click on it, and because I've already inserted it, I've already got it. But if you don't have it, then you can click Insert, um, and then you have access to it. So the MKCAD, and the first time you use it, it might take a few minutes to load up. And you might even need to log out and log back in so that it loads up. But basically, when I click that, this should load this up. And there's all my different COTS parts, custom off the shelf or consumer off the shelf. And here's my swerve. And here's the SDS MK4i swerve module. So I'm just going to click that. We're going to use, based on last year, we did Falcons for the steering and Krakens for that. L plate position. I believe it's below plate. And we're sticking with 1032s. So there we go. Let's have a quick look at that. I believe that should be above the frame. There we go. So let's have a look at that. We can always reconfigure it if need be. So it'll take a moment to just show up. So we just need to be patient. And there it is. Okay, so the way that this... Yeah, that's not the way I want it. So right click, change configuration. Below frame. Yeah, that's the way I want it. Okay, so if we look at how this is oriented, you can see that it's oriented for that corner right there. And what we'll do here is we'll do a fasten mate on that circle. So that hole, and it's going to go. So you can see I'm using the right mouse button. Just going to zoom out a bit. Oh, man. There we go. So a couple things. Number one, you see how on here you've got the blue pointing down, red to the right, and green. That orientation, if I click something else, I can change that orientation. So I want to be very careful to get the bottom of that, and green check mark. And that looks good. Okay, so I just want to double check. Yeah, so that looks great. Couple things. Number one, just zoom in. You want to be very careful because this is positioned exactly how we should have it. If this is inside, actually, why don't I do the next one inside so that you can see. So this tube right here, I'm just going to unfix it. And I'm just going to drag it over here. Okay, so the reason I'm dragging it is just so I can see it fairly easily. So again, I'm going to do the fasten. Now you'll see, so that blue is pointing up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here, which is the wrong way. So blue is pointing up. If I do that, do you see how it's inside and it's actually in the metal? Well, that's impossible. That can't work. So that's the kind of thing we want to make sure we don't do. Um, what I can do here is I can edit my fasten mate and just delete that. So now I'm purposely just deleting that just to move it out of the way. And the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make my life a little bit easier. I'm going to take that particular part and I'm just going to simply hide it. And by hiding it, it makes it hard because now it's not there, but it makes it easy for me to do my positioning. And something went wrong there. So there's the mate connector of the tube. There we go. So there we go. So we have that. So now we have that corner connected. And our mate features, I think that I just screwed that one up. So I'm just going to delete that. So I want to make sure that, so this tube is fixed. This tube right here is fixed. That's going to be my first tube. That tube is now fixed. Perfect. So that's what I need to do. The challenge is that you've got 4 of these. So you can either go back into MKCAD and insert them, or in our instances, we can just simply right click and we should be able to copy and then paste. Now, with the 4, couple things. Number 1, so this particular one, the orientation, I should change the orientation. So what I can do is simply change my rotation 90 degrees. And now that I've got it oriented the correct way, now I can do the same thing with this. So what I'm going to do, and you want to just be methodical with this. So if I do, so this one is going to be the first one. Oops. I want to be very careful here. So click that. So you can see like I'm zooming out, zooming in, and then if I change my view, so that first hole is going to be that. And every time I do one, just double check. Are things showing up where you want them? Fantastic. Now that screw was missing because I hid that same one. So now this particular one is, I can unfix that. Just going to move it out of the way. And same thing. So I'm going to fasten that particular circle. And there's a variety of ways I can do this. One way is just simply change my view so that I can see the bottom of that circle. And that little mate connector, that's the crucial component. There we go. So now I've got 2 done. I can throw in a 3rd one, throw in a 4th one, and I'm not going to do that. I've already done 2. It should be self-explanatory. There's a couple things that I want to see. Number 1, I want to make sure everything is fixed here. So, or the only one item is fixed. So this little icon, if I unfix that, so this icon, that's one fixed, perfect. That has degrees of freedom. I don't want to be in a situation where we have any degrees of freedom, because then somebody can accidentally move something and then everything's off. So I want to make sure, yeah, see, I've moved it. That's a problem. I want to make sure that that doesn't have a degree of freedom. So that means that we need fasten mates. So we'll need 2 more swerve modules. They'll need to be rotated. They'll need to have the bolts in the correct position. And that's the key thing, is that everything is positioned properly. If show all instances, there we go. So now we've got that. So that's the goal, is to have that all set up. So right now we've got 4 fasten mates. We should have 8 in total. We should have 2 more SDS modules. And then this should not have anything, because a fasten mate secures it to the swerve module, and another fasten mate secures the swerve module to this tube. So that's the goal. Once you have everything, then you can just click the entire thing, and the quiz question, oops, we're missing a few things. Okay, my mistake. So bill of materials is our next thing to look at. So there's our bill of materials. What we're going to do is go structured. So a couple things. Number 1, normally we would have 4152, but in this case it's going to be your initials. For next year's robot, it would be 25, because it's 25. We're just going to say SW for swerve. So basically, this is whose thing it is. If it's our team thing, then it's 4152. If it's an individual, it's your initials. This SW, this is a 2-character code for what the project is. So our competition robots are designated by the year, 24, 25, etc., etc. Your own projects, SW for swerve. And then this is a part, so it's P, and the drivetrain is 01. So this is the entire thing, and then each position after that is just numbered. And then, unfortunately, the only thing is here, I can't, because it's from MKCAD, I can't do that. So description, material, I think we're good. So there's our bill of materials. We should be able to select everything, and we should be able to click our mass properties, and then the quiz question is going to be your mass and your center of mass. These numbers are going to be different, because we haven't accounted for the 2 swerve modules as well. So that's the rest of it. Good luck, and we'll see how it goes.